What's going on, guys? It's Connor Gillen from Fantasy Football Beginner's Guide. I'm here again to bring you guys another screencast. So, if you guys have been paying attention to my blog, you'll see that I've been working on a collaborative campaign with three classmates, and we're working towards promoting education for the organization Stand for Children. My three classmates' blogs will be linked in my post down below, and hopefully you'll check them out to see what they're doing for this organization. So basically, this organization promotes education for children everywhere. Want to educate them, empower their parents and teachers, help the community as a whole, just to encourage critical thinking, encourage thinking, and education as a whole. So that is what we are working towards. So for me, for my part, I'm going to be showing how fantasy football helps education. So this little presentation, fantasy football and education. So let's jump right into it. First of all, it can help with mathematics. And the two aspects with mathematics are calculating your score from a box score and building a draft strategy. So let's look at these websites real quick that I brought up. This one is about calculating score. This is the Child's World website, and it's about fantasy football and mathematics. So as you know, in fantasy football, you get scores when your players perform in certain ways. Right here, here's a formula for total points. Teachers could use this to have their children, their students, calculate their scores, stuff like that. Children who want to learn about fantasy football and math, they can do this too. So say you have a running back, you take his yards, times it by 2.5. You could read through this. The website is here. It'll be linked. So all this other stuff. If there's a fumble, you might subtract points. An interception, you subtract points. So it's a good way to get kids, if you're a teacher, to get kids to, if they're interested in fantasy football, they'll be doing some math. Or if you're a kid and you're watching this, you could learn about math through fantasy football. Again, this is an article about how classrooms have used fantasy football to promote math, and again, they're saying that they've used it in calculating scores. Right here it says calculating the score. So right here, here's an example. You could look at a box score and calculate points that way. So say, this is an example, the Super Bowl from this year. Say you had Brady on your team and you want to calculate his score. You look at his yards. You do the calculations for that. You look at how many touchdowns he threw. Usually yards are, every 25 yards is 1 point for QB. TDs, I think it's 6 points for a touchdown, or 4. Interception, it's -2 or -3, something like that. So you can look at this, get his score, and say you had James White on your team too. This is his yards. For running backs, it's 1 point for every 10 yards. So you can figure that out. He got 2 TDs. Those are about 6 points. Add those all together. And that's just an example of some mathematics that you'll definitely encounter in fantasy football, which will help children learn and think and all that good stuff. It's another article just about the math behind it. So another, as in the PowerPoint said, building a draft strategy. You could use mathematics for that. This guy wrote an article about how he uses math and draft strategies. He basically says that he compares the average scores around the league to a player's previous scores. So he like subtracts and adds their scores together, see if they're above or below average, and then he could build his draft list through doing that. That's a very popular way for people to build a draft list. They'll look at their score, they'll look at the average score for that position, and they'll go and they'll take a certain player, for example, Andrew Luck right here, take his stats and do some math on it and figure out how good he is and how good they think he'll be and where you should draft him. So back to the PowerPoints. The second aspects of fantasy football and education is analyzing data. So you can analyze player stats, you can find connections, and make predictions for the future. So we could analyze player stats. For example, here's David Johnson. Let's look. He's this year in 2017 will be his third year. Let's look at how well his track record is so far for rushing. We don't care about receiving and all this because he's a running back. So he played 16 games each year. He got more attempts this year, so we see that he's getting more attempts every year, which is a good thing. His average is going up. He got more yards. His average went down actually a little, but he got more carries, so it all evened out. He got way more touchdowns this year, even though he didn't quite double his yards. He doubled his yards and then he doubled his TD. So you can look at stuff like this, and for next year you can predict what his scores will be and where you want him on your draft list. Let's look at someone else, Antonio Brown. He's played like 6 years now. So you could see that he's very healthy. You can analyze this and see that he plays almost every game every year. You can see that he gets about over 100 receptions every year. His yards have been pretty steady. So you can analyze this and see that he's a very safe person to draft for a star player. You don't have to worry about him getting hurt or anything. So this is just another aspect of fantasy football that requires you to think and analyze. Let's look at Matt Ryan. So look, Matt Ryan has played almost every game in his career. His attempts are around the same. Completion percentage is around the same. And his rating has gone up last year, actually. So you can kind of make a prediction that, he'll keep going up. If his attempts stay around the same, that his overall rating, how good he'll be, will be the same. So you can kind of analyze that and determine where you want to take him in the draft. And then the final aspect that I have here for education is researching. Try to find out why a player is performing a certain way, find projections for certain players, and research teams in order to find out if the player will perform. So example, looking at injury reports. You can research and analyze different injury reports and see if they're worth playing. Say you have Nelson Spruce, the wide receiver, and you can look at his injury. It doesn't say anything here, but odds are it's a hamstring. You probably don't want to play him that week. So you'll have to look around at all your players and see if there's any injury, research that. You could also look up why someone might be playing well. So Matt Ryan had a great year last year, and maybe you might be wondering how he did it, why he did it. So you can look at articles and research to see, and to tell if he'll still have another good year and if you should actually draft him or not. So do some research there, think about it, and you could look at the same thing for other players. Here's David Johnson. Did some research on him, thought about it. This guy obviously did that too, and he thinks he's going to have a bad year next year. So that's an opinion to take into mind, but you definitely want to do more research too. You don't want to just trust one guy's opinion. And you can also, as I said in the PowerPoint, look at projections. So say it's week 14 and you want to see where your certain players might project. Search the internet for some projections. So say you have Tom Brady. He's ranked number 2 for that week. Say you have LeSean McCoy. You see he's number 6. And, it's just all different research that you got to conduct every week for your team to stay on top, make it to the playoffs, and win. And also, as I said in the PowerPoint, research teams in order to find out if a player will perform. So say you want to take someone like, what's his name? Terrell Pryor in the draft. He's a great wide receiver, but you don't know who's throwing to him. So wide receivers are only as good as a QB will make them. So you got to look up the team and see, Cody Kessler, he's not a great QB. Do you really want to take a guy who has a bad QB throwing to him? Look at his offensive line, see if his QB will get protection in the time that they need to make the big throws to them. So that's all stuff that you definitely want to spend some time researching on. It will help you think, critically think, analyze, and make you just use your brain, basically. And that's something that we hope children will look at and teachers will implement into the classes, because it's definitely a great learning opportunity in fantasy football, as you see. And that's pretty much it, guys. Make sure you stay tuned to fantasyfootballbeginnersguide.wordpress.com for more updates, and thanks for watching.